I'll tell you this. This question is, as Rutgers prepares for Miami, the Miami Redhawks, who are 0-1, coming off a 17-0 loss to Wisconsin at Camp Randall, I'm worried, and I'll tell you why I'm worried. I'm worried because of the defense, and I think Miami has last year Miami was 9-5. They were 7-1 in conference. Last year they beat Ohio 30-20, beat Colorado State 43-17. That 17-0 loss to Wisconsin tells me they've got a legitimate defense, but probably struggle on offense. But the way our defense played last week, if they do that again, they could be on upset alert. So I'm a little bit concerned. What do you guys think?
I feel confident that Rutgers is going to win this game. And honestly, I really feel like this game is going to be a blowout because, yes, their defense is good. They were able to stop a Wisconsin team, which for the most part was just not really executing that much for most parts of the game. I will say as well that their entire offense, the one that was a top 3 offense in the MAC, at that, nobody returned. So this is a completely new team, completely new offensive line, completely new quarterback, completely new skills. And this gives an opportunity, especially at home, for this Rutgers team to, especially on their defense, to get into their groove. Ohio was a perfect week 1 matchup for this team because Ohio still has a lot of their good players, and Ohio, for the most part, is one of the better Group of 5 teams and out of the entire Group of 5, outside of, let's say, Boise State from last year, or you can include as well San Diego State or last year's UNLV onto that as well. You have to include Ohio in there because Ohio had one of the better quarterbacks in the Group of 5 in Parker Navarro, who started off on a very hot note as well. So any Ohio watchers looking at for our post-game recap, I will say that they have a very fun season in store for them as well. But for Miami of Ohio, it's a completely different situation. I can really see the front 7 being able to get to the quarterback, especially a quarterback that doesn't really, when he had the opportunity to run, he didn't go that far.
Yeah. My thing is, Parker Navarro, he's a good quarterback, but our whole defensive identity has really become the front 4. And not saying that we're not solid anywhere else, like in the secondary or our linebackers, but that's where the emphasis of the defense is. And we didn't get 1 sack, and we allowed Parker Navarro to run for 93 yards and a touchdown. And that was semi-expected, but I was saying I wanted him to not look like Lamar Jackson, and Jackson of Lamar is exactly who he looks like out there against us. And particularly in the passing game, because when you think of Lamar Jackson, you think of his running ability, obviously. There were scrambling quarterbacks before him, really good ones, Cam Newton, Michael Vick, but, Russell Wilson, but Colin Kaepernick. You think of Lamar Jackson as the guy that transformed how you play quarterback today. And Parker Navarro, in a same sense, kind of looked like that against us because he was able to throw the ball really well to receivers, none of whom had more than 26 receptions last year for no more than 2 touchdowns at most between all of them. And that brings me to DeQuan Finn.
Hold on a second. I got to offer my opinion here. I'm getting out here because you know what? I'm just kidding. But you say we made Parker Navarro look like Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
We made him look like Johnny Unitas. We made him look like Joe Montana. We made him look like
Steve Young.
Tom Brady, Steve Young. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, Lamar Jackson's not too far off on that tier.
And I don't want to sound like I don't mean to sound skeptical. I love Rutgers football and 1,000% support them. But the bottom line is that there was an issue with consistency. 3 points by the offense in the second half. And the defense really was very inconsistent throughout. Now, you mentioned the defensive line, and we've been saying this on prior shows. The key to Rutgers' success this year on defense is to get pressure with 4. Why? You get pressure with 4, you can drop 7. But they weren't getting any pressure.
They couldn't get pressure with 4 or 5, which I will say is an issue.
Especially with Eric O'Neal being ranked top 100 in the nation as a player.
I think it's going to be closer than you guys think. But again, I think we'll come out with a win. But the question is, are we going to come out with a win that feels good rather than one that feels concerning?
This is going to be a better one. How do you guys feel about 7th-year quarterbacks, perchance?
At this point, you can't really have a negative feeling about them. They're not going away.
So the Miami quarterback is in his 7th year.
Daquan Finn, and granted, he was injured his first 2 years. There was a COVID year, so mathematically it checks out. But if he gets injured this year, is he going to be an 8th-year quarterback next year?
Yeah, I've seen it before. I've seen 8th-year players before at different positions, and the funniest thing about that, Daquan Finn, we played against in my first game at LIU when we played against Toledo, and that was back in 22. So it was very full circle.
He had 2023, not a bad year for him. 2022, a little too many turnovers, still not a bad year. 2021, he had a 9-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He has talent. It's just that he's coming into a new system. He played at Baylor last year, but as a backup, he only saw 43 attempts, completing 23 of them. And Wisconsin's defense is solid. I think this is a bounce back week for us. I don't see how Schiano and company have another piss-poor defensive outing against a team that is worse than Ohio. And this should be a momentum changer. Like I've said, it's better to have frustrating wins than frustrating losses because you can learn from it with a smile instead of people trying to point fingers at what went wrong. You can own up to it. You can be like, that is my bad.
Yeah, that's true. But, remember that Miami lost to Wisconsin at Camp Randall 17-0. So that was no blowout, and they held the Wisconsin offense at Camp Randall at 17 points. Now, they didn't score any points, but our defense is not necessarily Wisconsin's defense. And one thing that really stuck out to me last week was this. 5 times Schiano went for it on 4th down, and he went for it, I think, from around the 40-yard line to steal the game. Does that tell me – it tells me one of 2 things. Either he has no respect for Ohio's defense or he doesn't trust our defense. And I think he doesn't trust our defense.
I will say as well, which might look into another red flag for me, not just for right now in regards to when they play Miami, Ohio next week, or whenever they play Norfolk State 2 weeks down the line. Greg Schiano went 5 for 5 on 4th down, but he went 1 for 10 on 3rd. And when it comes to, now I'm just saying the next 2 games, but once conference play starts going on, when you have to play against defenses like Iowa, defenses like Penn State, defenses like Ohio State, in games that are most likely one of those games they going to have to win in order to either make it to a potential Big Ten championship or potentially turning a 7-win season to an 8 or 9-win season. Going from 7 wins to 9-10 wins, you have to be able to be efficient on 3rd down. And
that goes into recruiting too. That's what the high school players are looking at. That's what transfer portal players are looking at.
And Gabe, before you asked Donovan, you asked Donovan to compare Florida and Rutgers. So Donovan, I'm going to ask you this. How would you compare LIU to Rutgers?
LIU to Rutgers, do you want to include the players that used to be on our team that play for them now, or?
I have my guess is that you would feel like your team could be competitive with Rutgers.
I wouldn't say we would be competitive because, in general, I feel like I would be competitive with any team. There's no situation you can put us against Ohio State right now, and I'm gonna feel like we have a chance because you can't go into that mindset on the football field at all, or you're going to get hurt. To be completely honest,
right.
And I would say what different us from just in general FCS to a team like Rutgers, which is on the way up in just Power 4. I would say it's just the players and just in general, just the way that their defense is honestly ran, especially with just how their secondary is. And games like these are very important for those type of secondaries, just to be able to feel dominant again, or be able to feel like they are better than their opponent again. And that's what I really feel what's going to happen against Miami of Ohio, because this is a perfect chance for this defense to see what Miami of Ohio put on tape against Wisconsin, which Daquan Finn did not have a good game. He had multiple turnovers that game. And they're going to be licking their chops because they honestly can feel like this is the game that helps us get bounced back and get us back into the groove. This game, and especially the week after at Norfolk State, to get them in the groove for Iowa, Minnesota, playing against number 7 Oregon 4 weeks down the line. These are the type of games that help you build up.
Yeah. Good answer.
All right, so I got another segment here. It's still on the it's still talking about the game, but I got a little over under segment here. I got looks like I got 10 over under things. And before we start, this has nothing to do with gambling. This is just asking yes or no questions of what we think could happen. So, for question number
some
one.
people it has to do with gambling. Don't be mean to them.
There's hotlines for that. There's hotlines for that.
As an athlete, all I can say is gamble responsibly.
Yes, exactly. Or don't gamble at all.
Thanks. Question number one. So certain betting websites have us favored by 14.5 points. Will we cover that?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I'm saying yes.
You don't see them winning by 14? Or,
no.
Or
it would be over
14?
Basically, it would be like if we win by 14, they would cover because it's 14.5.
Oh, they have to win by 21?
They have to win by 15, 16, 17 plus, whatever.
Oh, I can see that. 100%.
The
way that this offense played against an Ohio defense that still had a lot of their returners, and especially just how this is going to be a game where KJ Duff is most likely going to be the tallest player on the field. So I'm really can see this passing attack being able to go off.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a matter of our defense looking iffy against Miami of Ohio. Is their offense good enough to take down any defense? And Wisconsin, I don't want to discredit their defense, but based on how Finn and company played, I mean, he played like Jets Zach Wilson out there. I don't see it happening. I don't see if we don't cover, it would be a really bad look for us moving forward.
You guys are very optimistic. Let's look at that for a second.
You believe in Mr. Coach Schiano to turn this team around, and he knows that we need to improve. He knows that wasn't our best performance.
I trust Schiano to turn the team around, absolutely. I don't think it's a matter of turning the team around, I would say. It's a matter of getting them to be more consistent. And what worries me, though, from that performance against Ohio is that at halftime and in the second half, we got worse. And, they obviously made some adjustments, but we got worse. And we have a schedule with Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Washington, Minnesota, Illinois. It's not going to cut it. And I'm not ready to say that we're going to beat Miami of Ohio by more than 14 based on what happened last week. Because last week we were favored by how much?
Same thing, 14.5.
Yeah, but it's possible. But I think I'm cautious right now about it.
Just seeing the difference in just how Miami, Ohio is compared to what University of Ohio has currently just on both phases of the ball. A lot of their team currently, if they played Miami, Ohio, let's say tomorrow, they would win by more than 14. Miami of Ohio has a big issue on offense, and I really don't see them being able to click it together against another defense that has a very strong pass rush. I would say potential of a very strong pass rush in the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
Yeah, and part of the reason why it's 14.5 this week, too, is they pushed the goalpost back. If we played, if, say, we covered the 14.5 last week, bookkeepers would have probably had this week being like 17.5, maybe 18.5. It's because we underwhelmed last week. That's the reason why it's down to 14.5. And I like that line. The next thing is, are we going to have over or under 47.5 total points between us and Miami of Ohio?
Under.
I also think under.
I say under. Just
pretty unanimous. I mean,
to get how the offense is.
Basically,
how they're going to be killing them on the ground.
Like, if Miami of Ohio scores 10 points, are we going to put up 38? If they score 17, are we going to put up 32? And I don't think they're going to put up more than 10 points, but I don't want them to score 24 on us and then all of a sudden I look like a jackass. So, like, what's it going to be? And if they do score a lot, are we going to score more to match that total? I don't see it happening. Well, that's pretty unanimous then for that one. The next one is Eric O'Neal. He had 0 sacks last week. And I think the over-under was 1.5. And Adam, we might have both said over. Is he going to get his 2 sacks this week?
I can see it.
I can see it too.
100%, just due to playing with Eric. After any game that he has a bad, the following game after Eric has a bad game, he typically goes off, and that's just from personal experience. So that's why I'm going with that. I can see him getting 2 sacks.
I'm going to say under because since the over-under is 2, that would mean he'd have to have 2.5.
Well, technically, the over/under is 1.5. I just said
1.5. If you
I
have
said
2 sacks,
will he get 2
I
sacks?
thought okay. I was mistaken. Yeah, I'd go with the over on that one.
Yeah. So speaking of Eric O'Neal, does it like piss him off when he does bad? Like obviously it makes him frustrated. Does he get like angry?
Yes.
Kind of want to be a fly on the wall in that locker room after last week. I mean, look, they were all dancing. They were making TikToks and everything.
Yeah, a win is a win, but it's like if he did that and they lost, different type of error. But he's always going to be he's a really big time competitor, and that's why he wants to get better at every single situation. So if he doesn't do well one game, expect the next game he's going to go off.
Yeah, and forget about being a fly on the wall, Gabe. I don't want to be a fly on anybody's wall. I want Coach Shiano on the show. Coach, we've been inviting you left and right, and you keep giving us the boot. We love you, Coach. Come on, we got some questions for you. We're only asking for 10 or 15 minutes. And Ethan, same goes for you. We want to support you as you hopefully have a Heisman-worthy campaign this year.
So will Ohio, or Miami of Ohio, score over or under that 10.5?
Over.
I can see it being over just due to possibly a late score. One of those situations.
Well,
like I completely see the 2s for Rutgers coming into this game. I can see them scoring on their 2s.
Look, I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch, but I mean I believe that we will have a great game. I'm not saying we will though. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be the LSU players wearing the 1-0 on their shirt, even though they were right.
Or the quarterback from Florida State who was talking trash about Alabama all summer, and then he backs it up.
Yeah. Mr. Castellanos.
Tommy Castellanos. I just want to. I know this is a Rutgers primary show, but I just want to get into just in general for college football because I've been wanting to talk about this all weekend, from Saturday's game, especially Sunday's game yesterday between South Carolina and Virginia Tech, which despite the score was very exciting throughout all 4 quarters. The ACC looks like a very fun conference this year.
It could be, yeah.
A very fun conference. Not only just with how Florida State completely made a statement be known with how they completely just beat down on Alabama. It felt like a full-on beat down. I'm shocked that even Alabama was able to put up double digits on this Florida State team because they played so good on offense, which is Squirrel White as a wide receiver, the 2 running backs that they have, Tommy Castellanos being able to be just another. It felt like watching Kyler Murray again. Being able to just in a blink of an eye go from being in the pocket to just 20 yards down the field and just nobody near him. And then we have what Pitt did to Duquesne. They have a really fun offense.
Pitt looks great.
SMU looked great. I will say as well, just even though Clemson lost to LSU, that LSU team has a very good defense. And I can truly believe after tonight's game with UNC, who is also an ACC team that I have my eye on, which is the return of Coach Bill Belichick. I can see LSU being a top 3 team at the end of Monday. But for ACC, just in general, Virginia Tech, I wanted to add in as well. Mm-hmm. They have a wide receiver core that looks scary with Donovan Green and Aiden Green. Kyron Drones looked really good yesterday, despite that red zone interception that he had in the first quarter. That defense held up with South Carolina for a long time throughout that game. There was pads clicking. And
by the way, with that LSU Clemson game, should have been 24-10 and not 17-10.
100%. LSU shot themselves in the foot, and they were still able to really shut down Cade Klubnik for most parts of that second half. And that's why Clemson's still in the running with this, because Cade Klubnik had a bad second half, but I don't see him doing that for the rest of the season. And then what Miami did yesterday, I just want to final off with this. I'm sorry
Yeah.
for going on a little tangent.
No, you're good, man. We love college football here.
Mario Cristobal has this Miami team looking like one of his Oregon teams.
Yeah.
It felt like watching 2019 Oregon all over again. Just with how Carson Beck, he had I would say he had a above average game despite only missing 10 passes, 205 yards. But Malachi Toney is a superstar in the making as a true freshman.
It looks like you lost Jason O on your Virginia Tech compliments.
I will say I'm just saying in general, even though even late in that game, they let the game get away from them. They had Lenore Sellers in check from, I would say, after his first opening touchdown drive up to the beginning of that fourth quarter. They have a defense that's really, I would say, close knit with each other, and I'm just truly looking at Kyron Jones in his first year being healthy again. Last year was an off year because he was hurt for most parts of that season. Him with this wide receiving transfer duo of the Greens, who are not related, Donovan and Aiden Green. I'm excited to see how that looks because that looks like a very fun offense with the amount of ridiculous catches they were making on Sunday.
I mean, It really feels like, coming into week one, it was a 3-man race for the national championship this year. It was really
and I didn't even get into Georgia Tech.
What's that?
I didn't even get into Georgia Tech and how good Haynes Kane still looks.
So it felt like coming into the week, it was Ohio State, Penn State, Texas. These are the three teams that have a chance to win the national championship this year, and everybody else is just the others. But after this week,
I would say it went from 3 to 7 in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean the two dark horses, in my opinion, the fan favorites are clearly LSU and Miami.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at this past weekend of college football, it shows you why college football is so amazing. The venues, the excitement, the games, it was an unbelievable weekend. But a few takeaways, I think, from it. Arch Manning, I don't know what he was doing. He was confused, obviously, by the defensive scheme at Ohio State, but he was throwing the ball. He was not accurate, almost side-arming the ball. It seemed he seemed very off. But I think when I look at Ohio State and Texas, I don't tend to think that either of them are going to win the national championship. I think what I saw from LSU and Clemson, those two teams, to me, were the two best teams over the weekend. Those defenses are disciplined, and either team can beat the other. Now, Florida State, I think they'll be good, but I don't think they're going to contend for a national championship. Alabama, no.
No, they're out of the running. Alabama's out of the running.
I mean, Notre Dame did lose to Northern Illinois last year.
I will say Notre Dame did they did look good in that second half, so I can see them being still a favorite contender.
Yeah, I agree.
For Ohio State, their defense is going to be playing a heavy load this year just until Julian Sain starts to feel more and more comfortable in this offense. They still did have a really good showing in the run game. There was this one clip that I saw of I think it was their left guard and their center on a inside double team block. Here we call it an A block, and they completely moved. They moved the guy vertically back 5-6 yards. And I think it was on a fourth. I think it was on a 3rd down and 2 at that. So they have a lot of good aspects and just pieces to be a heavy favorite. I don't know about Texas though. I primarily don't have that much faith in Texas because I'm not saying because of Arch Manning. Arch Manning, outside of how ugly he did in that game on Saturday with the interception, a lot of those missed throws throughout the game, especially the gimme that he had on that drag run on that 4th and 2. Wingo was the most wide open Wingo looked that entire game. Yeah. He was somewhat open to begin that drive when they were back at their 5 or 6 yard line when they were backed up to start the drive, and they had him on a corner route.
I think your debut as the number 1 string quarterback, it's kind of tough to start off your collegiate career as a full-time starter going into Ohio State against a team that, to me, they remind me of the 2015 Broncos, with all due respect to Sayan. Until Sayan expands his role, that's what that team reminds me of, with the 41-year-old Peyton Manning. But he didn't have it, but obviously he's still one of the smartest quarterbacks of all time, and he played within the system. Sayan did a great job of playing within the system, and the rest of that team, it's It looks like that team led by Von Miller that won the Super Bowl against the Panthers. Like, that's a tough way to debut your collegiate career as
Yeah,
the guy.
I agree with you. I think one thing that impressed me about Sand was that he played very smart. He picked his spots, and when he did, he was successful. He didn't try to do too much, didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Arch Manning may have an amazing season. He's certainly an extraordinary talent, but it just seemed like, apart from the inaccuracies, it seemed like he was not reading the defense and did not recognize the coverages. And that, I think, is something that really needs to be worked on.
I like saying, and I'm just excited for the game this year because we're going to have another 4 years of two completely new quarterbacks for Bryce Underwood, who had a really good true freshman start against New Mexico, and now another true freshman, Julian Saying. Those two colliding is going to be a sight to see, just especially if none of them leave for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
That's going to be a very strong developed rivalry between those two quarterbacks. And going back to what I said about Texas, I don't know if it was really Arch Manning that was the big issue against Ohio State on Saturday, primarily because I didn't expect Ohio State's defense to be that good despite Jack Sawyer leaving, JT Tuimoloau leaving. And they still were able to, be completely stout on fourth down. They stopped Steve Sarkisian, I think, 4 times on fourth down that game. They still have a lot of that interior presence that they had to really shut down a lot of teams, Penn State included, last season. And Caleb Downs looked like the best defensive player in the country.
Yeah. And he was almost a household name.
If we're making, I would say, comparisons to NFL teams, their defense truly reminds me of, like, I would say the 2006 Colts. I know they don't have a superstar like Dwight Freeney or anything of that nature right now. Currently, they're still trying to figure out their pass rush. But the way that team was able to, I would say, work together so strongly around Caleb Downs reminds me of just how Bob Sanders was able to completely revitalize that team with his presence at that safety position.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, Donovan, which is one thing I noticed. It didn't seem like the Texas wideouts were incredibly
getting
fast.
open. They were getting shut down.
They were getting shut down. Yeah, so it's not all on Arch. And Jason raises a great point. Way too much pressure on Arch Manning. You know, he's a human being. He's allowed to have a bad game. Doesn't mean he's not going to have an amazing career, which he probably will. But I think that there were other factors that contributed to it. Namely, the Texas wideouts are not the wideouts of last year.
No.
And they're
not in the wideouts of 2 years ago. That era of Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, Xavier Worthy is behind us now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Jason also says Notre Dame is going to be tough. I agree with him. I think Notre Dame showed last night they could have won that game. And I thought, quite frankly, they were probably the better team. But
the difference was a car turnover, and we're not going to see too many car turnovers this year.
Yeah, so Notre Dame's still in it.
So
I will say my dark horse, since we got off track, and I just want to get this in because you brought up your dark horses like LSU and Clemson. I really feel like my dark horse in general, South Carolina, is especially just for the SEC. I was saying this all day that it was this conference this year is LSU's or South Carolina's to lose, just with just how good these two teams are offensively and defensively. LSU has one of the best offenses have one of the best defenses in the country. You can say the same about South Carolina. Dylan Stewart is going to be a first-team All-American at edge this year, and there's no way anybody convinced me otherwise. The way he was able to just completely just wreck a game in the second half against Virginia Tech. Yes, it was against Virginia Tech, but I can see that against other SEC teams. We saw it last year as well when he was a true freshman at that. Despite the shoulder injury that he had in the middle of the game, he still came back. He was able to get 2 sacks in the game since he came back. And one of them would look completely nasty on Kyron Drones. And I can really see either LSU, Lenore Sellers showed us a lot on Sunday as well, being a dual threat QB. And once he is able to get into the flow of things, Nick Harbor is going to be a problem. Yeah. 6'6", can run like a gazelle. And you just can't stop it. He was a participant in the Olympic 200-meter trials. That's speed right there. And the thing about the SEC, the teams that have skilled players that have the most speed We saw it last year. We saw it the years before, especially just with Texas the last couple of years, having Xavier Worthy, Matthew Golden, both 4.2, 4.3, 40 runners. We've seen it with LSU when they had Neighbors and Brian Thomas. We saw it with Alabama when they had the Ferraris and Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Judy.
You can go over that Alabama.
If you have Ferraris in the garage for your offense, you're going to be very successful. And I truly see LSU and especially South Carolina having a load of Ferraris in the garage right now.
Yeah, if you go over that 2017 Alabama roster, they have like 10 wide receivers that turn into Pro Bowlers. Unbelievable. Yeah. So do we want to go back to this over-under thing? I mean, this is all great talk. I still have a few more, though.
Go ahead, Gabe.
Great. Okay. I got the let's see. Oh, I'm up to all right. This is an interesting one to me. So Miami of Ohio had 117 total yards versus Wisconsin. Are they going to have over or under 165.5 against us?
Over.
I can see over primarily because they could do it against the second teamers.
Okay. Yes. What about over under? I'll go 75.5 yards first half then.
Over.
I can see over. If it was like entire game when it goes to just running the ball, if they have any sort of like running lines, I really see, especially Greg Schiano, he doesn't like giving up the run. And 200 yards on the ground against Ohio, this entire week they're planning to do one thing only, is to stop the run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point, especially after a bad Finn outing. I guess you don't want to focus too much on something that isn't working currently. So over or under 1.5 forced turnovers by this defense. I mean, we had a fumble, scoop, and score, no interceptions though.
Over.
You think over? Okay.
Is there any over unders for blocked punts?
Oh, we lead the nation in those since 2022.
I saw why last night. Oh no, on Thursday night, because that special teams that Rutgers has it's very important. When it's good, it's very important and very game changing. And that's honestly what kept that game out of reach for Ohio.
And you know what? That and the student section that forces a penalty and then a fourth down malfunction, I guess you could say. They were almost indirectly the reason we won that game.
Agreed.
Over under 2.5 Ethan Kaliak-Manis touchdown passes.
Yes. Over. I can see him having 4 on the day.
I was thinking 4 too.
Under.
Adam, you're going Mr. Opposite here a lot.
I think he gets 2.
Okay. Because
I think we're going to focus a lot on the run, and I think that we're going to have some touchdowns out of Antoine Raymond and CJ. So I think it's going to be balanced. So it doesn't mean Ethan's going to have an underwhelming performance. It's just I think it's going to be a little bit more spread out.
I just feel the way that they're going to take advantage of the run, especially on their first couple of drives, the play action is going to be open, and DT Sheffield eats in play action.
Love DT.
DT's great. Duff, who I was saying CFB 26 disrespected by having him at a 77, and Ian Strong was at an 82, and I was like, these guys are almost one and the same in terms of how they play at wideout. That's a big 3. This is one that honestly, like, this is one of my rare nitpicks when it came to this offense. Are we going to have over or under 4.5 tight end completions?
Under.
Or receptions, I guess.
Under, because for the most part in this offense, Rutgers using tight ends to primarily just block.
No, yeah, it's true. It's just that, like, we're kind of promised this thing coming in with, like, Fletcher and Weber. Like, these are 2 guys that can catch the football, especially Weber.
You know why I think, here's my very simple, ignorant view of tight ends. The reason that tight ends don't get the ball a lot is very simple. Because they're too slow. They throw to wide receivers more. You rarely get like a Jeremy Shockey. You rarely get a tight end that really, runs a 4.5 and can really, get up. I think tight ends are mostly beneficial because of their blocking capabilities. But am I wrong, Donovan?
And I agree with you, and just like I wouldn't say it's rare to get a tight end like Jeremy Shockey because we just saw Brock
Yeah,
Bowers completely destroy
Oh,
everything in his path as a tight end, and I just don't see it with Rutgers because I know Rubber can catch the ball, but they have that type of tight end body in a receiver right now with KJ Duff.
no, that's true. He is very. I don't want to. I don't want to shame
He's
him.
the guy that you would throw to over the middle typically as like a tight end would because he has the size to be able to make those catches if they're contested and be able to hold on to the ball if he's getting hit.
yeah.
He's the DK Juju type of build. So I respect that. Will Jai Patel make over or under 2.5 field goals and without missing?
Yeah, because he's the record holder. Because there's only two ways that this week 2 game against Miami, Ohio can happen. Jai Patel misses a field goal, it ends the streak, or the streak just completely is going to be continued until he hangs up the cleats.
Yeah.
What's Jai Patel's range?
See, that's a good question. I mean, he was technically the difference last week because we won by 3, and he made the last points. In terms of range, I'm not exactly sure. I know he's a sniper from 20 to 29.
I would say over because I think the Miami defense is going to not shut down drives, but they're going to hold them in the red zone a few times.
Yeah, I concur with that. And this one is, I guess, a little comedic. Will 7th-year quarterback Daquan Finn throw for a touchdown pass in the first 3 quarters?
I can see it. I can see it. Just primarily just due to how the secondary is going to try to deal with Daquan Finn, especially since he's going to try to be mobile. And we just saw what they did with Parker Navarro, even though they are 2 completely different QBs. I can still see a potential touchdown to a tight end because since we're on the tight end topic, Rutgers needs to figure out how to defend against tight ends because those were the touchdown scores last week.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is he had 12 attempts for 13 yards last week, so he got stopped. They figured out how to contain him.
I think he gets 1 touchdown pass in the first 3 quarters, but I'm not sure he gets any more than that.
You don't think he gets a last-second 50-yard bomb that we're kind of blown coverage on because we're like done with the day?
I will explain with my score prediction.
Okay, well, that's all I have for the over-unders, so go right ahead.
So let's go for our score predictions. Gabe, since you did the over-under, why don't you start us off with your score prediction, which I am suspecting might be very accurate.
I think I'm going to go – I'm saying we're going to maintain the 34 and allow 10.
All right. I think that I think it's going to be 34-7. I don't
Very
see
similar.
I don't see them scoring 10. I just don't see Rutgers running up the score that much. Primarily I feel like they're going to end the day a little bit early for this team once they recognize that it's very much out of reach.
Yeah. And also my thing is with the 10, I don't know if Miami of Ohio will ever go for a field goal. They might just go for it on 4th down once it gets to a point in the game. But if they make a field goal, it'll be in the first drive or 2. That's why I think, they'll have 1 or 2 good offensive runs and they'll settle for a field goal. If they don't score 3 after the first quarter, they're not scoring 3 in quarters 2 through 4.
I'm going to say Rutgers 27, Miami 13.